Welcome, fellow explorers. My name is Christian Alexanderson, and this is Hemlocks to Hellbenders, a podcast highlighting Pennsylvania's parks, forests, and great outdoors. The definition of a garden is a small piece of ground used to grow vegetables, fruit, herbs, or flowers. But it's much more than that. It's a community meeting place. It's an outdoor classroom. It's an organic food market. It's a sustainable hobby. And it's a place to make lifelong friendships. Ask anyone who's spent time in a community garden and they'll tell you how important gardens are for themselves, their families, their neighbors, and their communities. But why am I bringing this up? This is a state park podcast, not a gardening podcast. I'll tell you why. Benjamin Rush State Park. As the only state park inside the city limits of Philadelphia, Benjamin Rush State Park and Celebrate Community Garden are institutions that are loved and appreciated. There are a lot of things that make certain Pennsylvania state parks exceptional, like the waterfalls of Ricketts Glen, or the views at Leonard Harrison, or the ancient trees at Cook Forest. What makes Benjamin Rush State Park so outstanding is its community garden. Located in the northeast section of Philadelphia, this park offers much-needed open space in this busy area. In addition to having a massive community garden, the park provides ample space for those that want to hike, bike, and wildlife watch. Multi-use trails meander through open meadows and shaded wooded areas, giving those surrounded by buildings, asphalt, and concrete a welcome respite in their city. The park also features a large area devoted to flying radio-controlled model planes. The field includes a 400-foot runway and surrounding fly zone. Benjamin Rush is one of the few state parks in Pennsylvania you could fly a radio-controlled plane, which I find really cool. But the biggest, most notable feature of the park is its community garden. The sheer size of it is stunning when you first visit Benjamin Rush. The variety and amount of vegetables and herbs being grown is impressive. We have two guests for this episode that we're going to be speaking to separately. First, we're going to learn about the park and its wonderful features. Then, we're going to learn about the park's community garden. But before we hear from our guests, here's the stats. Benjamin Rush State Park is a 275-acre park located in Philadelphia County. Available activities include hiking, wildlife watching, biking, radio flying, and cross-country skiing. A notable feature of the park is its large community garden. Benjamin Rush State Park is named after American revolutionary, founding father of the United States, and signatory to the United States Declaration of Independence, Benjamin Rush. Nearby towns include Philadelphia and Bensalem. State lands that are close by include Neshaminy and Tyler State Parks and William Penn State Forest. You may enjoy the park if you enjoy open space amid a cityscape. I'm excited to welcome Kaitlyn Gundersen-Thorpe to the podcast. Kaitlyn is the park manager for Benjamin Rush and Neshaminy State Parks. Kaitlyn, thanks so much for joining the program.
Thanks for having me.
How would you describe the park to someone who's never been there before?
Well, it's a quiet, passive recreation park, which means there's no amenities for picnicking or for spending a whole day there. There's not picnic tables and grills, but it's great for getting outside and just getting some exercise. It's only 300 acres, so it's not big, but there are trails. So you could spend a couple hours walking the trails. It's great for that, for dog walkers. And the trail system is all connected in a series of loops, so you can't really get lost. You just would keep walking until you end up back at your car.
What do you love most about the park?
For me, I love the peacefulness of the park, especially compared to our other park. We're a complex with Neshaminy State Park in Bensalem. Neshaminy could be very, very crowded, very active on the weekends. So when we go over to Benjamin Rush, it's a whole different world. It's right next to Roosevelt Boulevard, but you can't really even hear the noise from the highway. It's just so quiet and peaceful, and everyone is usually friendly and very happy to be there. It's not crowded, and everyone's just having a good time when they're there.
Is there something you think everyone should experience when they visit Benjamin Rush?
Yeah, so because it's so quiet, you have a good chance to see a lot of wildlife that you wouldn't normally see in the city, especially if you're local to that area. When I've been there, I've seen bald eagles, which is really cool. I always see like foxes, there's rabbits, of course, there's a million deer, which is why we're trying to get some hunting activity over there. But even when you're driving through the daytime, you'll see deer. And if you're there in the evening, you'll see a lot of fireflies. There's like tons of fireflies because it's a field, so it's so pretty. And there's some interesting birds you wouldn't normally see at a bird feeder at your house. Like there's red-winged blackbirds, there's red-tailed hawks, there's owls. So you'll experience a lot of nature just by going and observing.
What separates this park from all others in the Commonwealth is its incredible community garden. How does the community interact with the garden?
Well, some of the gardeners donate what they grow to local food banks. That's kind of like their goal. They'll grow different vegetables, so tomatoes and corn, different things like that. And then the garden itself is just a service that provides space for people from all over to grow fresh vegetables that people might not have the space or the ability at their house enough to have a garden that they would like to have. So if you wanted to join the garden club, it's only $35 and then a year, and then you get a 30 by 30 plot, and you can garden from like early April to mid October. So you get a long time that you can be out here. And their information's on our website. So if you wanted to look up how to join or contact them for questions, you can.
The park offers a much needed space in the busy area. What do you suggest visitors do to get the most out of their visit?
The best thing to do is just park and walk. So if you have a dog, bring your dog. Don't bring your phone, put your phone away, and just look around and enjoy the scenery.
How important is this space for a city of people that don't have much access to wooded parks and meadows?
So Ben Rush is directly bordered by another city park, which is Pequessing. And Fairmount Park's pretty too. It has different habitat variety, but it is important to protect as much green space as we can and as many locations as possible. Like we were just saying, DCNR's mission is to have a state park within 25 miles of every citizen in Pennsylvania, and then this is the only state park in Philadelphia County. So this gets us closer to that goal for people who live in Philadelphia. And it just gives people a place to connect with nature where there aren't a lot of options close to them.
While Benjamin Rush doesn't have the largest network of trails, it does have 3 miles of multi use trails. What will visitors see when they hike and bike? You mentioned animals. What else do you think they'll see?
Yeah, so we talked about the forest and the meadows, different habitats. We have different waysides which have educational information about the park and the park's history, and about Benjamin Rush himself and why the park's named after him. They'll see the Pequessing Creek, which is in the park. Hopefully, wildlife, like we said. They'll see the community garden, and then we also have beehives, which are kept by a local beekeeper, which border the garden. And if the beekeeper's there, which he's there a lot to tend to the hives, he's always open to talking and answering questions and giving some education. And then they'll see also our radio controlled airplane field, which is towards the back of the park. And that field is maintained by a club, and the club's there a lot. So hopefully, when you're out there, you'll see some airplanes flying.
Well, that's one of the really unique things about this park is the radio controlled model airplane field. What can you tell us about that? How does it operate? What can people see if they stop by?
So there's a 400-foot runway, and then there's like a surrounding fly zone, and the whole entire area is maintained by the club, which is the Northeast Philadelphia Radio Control Club. You don't need to be a member to fly, a member of the club, but you just have to have an AMA license. And the club does different events, so they'll have a bunch of people come and do different like shows and bring their different kind of planes. There are only 6 state parks in Pennsylvania that have flying sites, and Ben Rush is one of them. So it's pretty cool. Um, and you can fly drones at it if you have the AMA license. So that's like really one of the only places you can fly a drone around here. So yeah, they use it often. So when you're there, if you look up, you'll probably see some planes flying. And to join that club, that's only $50 a year too, and they're always looking for new members.
Benjamin Rush is pretty special. I mean, it has a very, very large community garden and it has a radio controlled model airplane field. It must be great to offer these sort of interesting facilities and these alternative things that you can do at a park this small, so close to so many people.
Yeah, and especially because it's not a picnic park, so it's mostly just people that come to walk their dog and leave. So it's cool when they get there to see other things besides just trails.
Do you have any tips for people who plan on visiting the park?
Yeah, so a couple. Vehicle break-ins, they happen at every state park, and they're kind of common at Benjamin Rush, especially during times of year when it's not busy, like in the wintertime. So our recommendation is always don't leave any valuables in your vehicle at all. If you have to bring a bag, lock it out of sight in the trunk. But I've seen break-ins over diaper bags. So even if you think it's not something valuable, like just take it with you if you can. Just pack light and take it with you. Um, on that line, call 911 if you see something you want to report or something you think is suspicious, because we do cover Neshaminy and Benjamin Rush. So it's possible that the Rangers are at Neshaminy when you see something, and they won't see it if you don't call 911 to report it. So don't wait if you see something, just call 911. It's not a bother. Most people don't want to call because they don't want to bother the police, but that's our job. So just call. And then Benjamin Rush is a carry in, carry out park, which means we don't have large trash cans. There's a couple trash receptacles around that are mostly for dog poop bags, but there's not trash cans for like a lot of trash. So you're supposed to take it with you in your car when you leave. But that's it. Just come and have a good time.
Kate, thanks so much for talking to us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And now, let's hear from our sponsors. For over 40 years, Keystone Trails Association has been helping keep Pennsylvania's hiking trails safe and beautiful through its volunteer-based trail care program. Take part in this fun tradition at Trail Love Michaud State Forest Edition, a special maintenance event on Friday, May 31st and Saturday, June 1st. Beginner-friendly projects will be available. Enjoy a free lunch and tie-dye t-shirt. Sign up at kta-hike.org. Are you looking for your next adventure? Unlock some of the best landscapes in Pennsylvania with incredibly detailed, highly curated, waterproof trail maps from the folks at Purple Lizard. They create extraordinary maps of Pennsylvania State Forest for people who love to explore the outdoors. Find them at your local outfitters, bike shops, and bookstores, or visit purplelizard.com, where your next adventure begins. Hey, podcast explorers. Did you know Pennsylvania state parks and forests are the heartbeat of our Commonwealth? They're not just natural wonders, they're vital for our well-being and local economies. That's where the Pennsylvania Parks and Forest Foundation steps in. They rally volunteers, raise funds, and advocate for these precious lands. Join the movement to preserve and enjoy our outdoor treasures. Learn more at paparksandforests.org. Let's keep Pennsylvania untamed and beautiful together. All right, back to the show. I'm excited to welcome Ron Huber to the podcast. Ron is the president of the Benjamin Rush Garden Association. Ron, thanks for joining the program.
You're welcome.
What is the Benjamin Rush Community Garden?
It's one of the largest community gardens. We have 11 acres where members can grow vegetables during the summer season. They have a very small fee, like a lot of the community gardens in the area. The plot that the state allows us is 11. We farm about 7 of it.
I know the first time I showed up, I was just surprised by how big this is. I've never seen anything like it in any of the Pennsylvania state parks. Is that the reaction a lot of people get when they see the garden for the first time?
Yeah, I've had a member sign up, and when they actually came out, they're like, well, just the size of the actual plot, a lot of people were, some older people that thought it was a great idea, they come out and they're like, oh my God. They didn't realize. And then, of course, the way we are, I try to accommodate and help people to get them started. It's a good thing that we have going. We all work together. We all try to. It's a community to begin with. So,
how large are the individual plots?
The individual plots are 30 by 30, and we have 280 plots available. But right now, we have a certain area corded off just for ease of maintenance and stuff, and the number of members. Current season, we limited to like 196 plots. They're kind of broken up in groups of 4. A lot of seasoned people like myself, I have 4 plots, and they're roped off in with like a 4-foot aisle between each 4. For so people can get around.
Can you tell us about the Benjamin Rush Garden Association?
We were founded originally when this wasn't even a state park, although I'm not sure how far back it goes, but when it was the state hospital farmlands, founding members had an agreement with the state park to utilize some of the land. And then in around 1975, when the hospital was shut down, the members struck an agreement with the state to continue gardening there. Right. So I myself have been there for about 20 years. And like I said, they continued an agreement long before it was just a dirt road coming in and out of the park. Eventually in 2011, they shut us down and manicured the park. They finally, did what they had planned originally, and now it's got walking spaces and stuff, and there's actual roads that go around the garden. And then they, when they redesigned it, they preserved it so we would be able to stay there, since we were with the park for all this time.
Let's say someone's interested in getting a garden plot. What's the process like?
The process is actually very simple. We have applications on a box by the bathroom and by our shed, but we have a web page people can go to our webpage and download an application. Basically, it involves we're kind of low tech, so it involves people mailing the application in. We have a post office box, and then at the beginning of each season, we process them and assign it. It's very simple. We're obviously open to everybody. People can read all about us on our webpage. Um, Basically, it spells out a lot of our basic rules, our basic ins and outs, and my email is also listed on it. People can contact me, and as you have through the email, and I answer questions. At the garden a lot myself. People happen to come by and ask about it. I give them applications. It's very simple. We're always taking applications. Um, our gardening season runs April through October as our agreement with the state. So at some point in June, we stop taking applications for the current season and set them aside and let people know that they're for next year, because it's just too late to grow stuff as far as June is concerned. After June,
Is it a first come, first served basis?
pretty much. Um, we take applications first come first serve. After our general meeting in August, that's when I start processing applications for the next season, and priority is given obviously to returning members that get their application in early. A lot of our seasoned gardeners have had the same plot for years, and as long as they're in good standing and they get their application early, we try to accommodate them, leave them there. Um, we try to accommodate everybody. New gardeners, may come in and they're, because of age and stuff, they want to be on the edges and stuff, and we try to put people where it's easy for them. Our garden, the way it's laid out is we're 7 gardens wide, like I said, with a 4-foot in between, and right now we're up to 28 gardens long, so 28 plots. Yeah, right. So like I said, it's pretty accommodating. It's real easy.
Is there somebody that's been there the longest?
There's a few. Although it's dwindling with years. Like I said, I'm there almost 20 years myself. The one woman 2 gardens over from me, she's kind of third generation there. Her father finally, because of age and health, she kind of took over the garden fully. She was helping him for the last couple of years, but he originally took it from his mother-in-law. He jumped in the same way, so they've been around probably the longest. There are people that are there besides them 30 years or more.
Wow. What's grown in the garden?
Predominantly vegetables, seasoned vegetables. Obviously, we frown on people planting anything perennial type like strawberries, blueberries, stuff like that. It's mainly stuff one and done. We used to plow the whole field yearly. That kind of prohibited people from planting stuff. Now it's very hard to get a farmer to come in, and the membership agreed to just forego that, and everybody just tills their own plot. But still, with our agreement with state parks, there's really can't be anything permanent. At the end of the season, everybody has to take down their fences, remove all their stuff, and it stays vacant for the winter season. And that's all part of us leasing the land from the state parks. I myself, I've got popcorn, I've got silver queen corn growing. I have some ornamental corn that I just grow for decoration and stuff that's not edible, plus the usuals: tomatoes, peppers, potatoes, sweet potatoes. Most people grow about the same thing. There's various flowers that are fed into the mix that assist in bug control. Certain flowers like marigolds, basil, kind of ward off certain pesky insects from your plants. So I incorporate a lot of that, and so do a lot of seasoned gardeners.
The Benjamin Rush Community Garden is organic. What does that mean, and why is that important?
Well, by organic, we frown on people, although I will admit it's hard to control and see what everybody's doing, but we try to frown on any kind of pesticides, any herbicides. everybody uses something that's natural. There are natural deterrents for pests, which become a problem time to time, and that's what we mean by being organic. We try to encourage everybody to just be all natural.
What kind of pests do you normally have to deal with? Is it deer? Is it insects?
All the above. Um, it has been a growing problem with the deer population, and uh, we finally got the park system to concede to start having a hunt. Last year was the first year. Deer have been a big growing problem, but occasionally you'll find a groundhog running through your plot. Uh, Bug wise, there's various insects, potato beetles, bean beetles, um, stuff like that we have to deal with. The deer's in the last couple of years, the deer has been the hardest. When I first started, we barely fenced our plots in, um, and the deer weren't as big of a problem. But because of lack of predators in the area, deer population has been overrun, and the game commission finally stepped in and said, "Yeah, we got to do something about it." They seem to be our biggest obstacle, but we allow our gardeners to put up almost temporarily 8 feet of fencing just to kind of ward the deer off. Unfortunately, that doesn't fend off the bugs. So bugs, we have to be creative with um, organic solutions. There are um, different kind of soap sprays and diatomaceous earth and stuff like that that helps to keep them down.
What makes the community garden so special for you?
When I started all those years ago, it was actually the brainchild of my then 13-year-old son, who now is a PhD in horticulture and all. Um, he wanted to do this all these years ago, and I got involved with him, and it just something that him and I started doing. And I've kind of grown up around relatives that have farms and garden. My parents always had a garden, so I always enjoy gardening and growing my own, fresh vegetables and stuff. It's not really for the saving of money. It's more for the ability to grow your own fresh stuff. And um, it was a good thing for my one child because it was just something that him and I, nobody else cared about, and it was a good bonding for him and I for many many years until he moved away. Now I basically just garden myself just for the love of gardening.
The garden provides a real sense of community with a diverse group of people getting their hands in the dirt and growing food together and also growing flowers and herbs. What would you say keeps people coming back and leasing plots?
The ones that aren't discouraged by the deer attacking their garden. It's basically people that just love. A lot of people just love the garden, and a lot of people are stay at it because for the love of homegrown vegetables and stuff, fresh stuff. And we are a good community. I've got friends. That we all. A lot of times we don't get to garden much because we end up in the discussions and chat sessions, and it's it is a great community, a great bunch of people that we all work together with.
How important are volunteers for the community garden?
We are an all volunteer organization. I myself, as president of the organization, I'm a volunteer. Although my job and some of the other people on the committee that runs it, we're kind of behind the scenes working year round, but we rely on everybody to help out. And especially this time of year when the weeds go crazy and empty plots and aisles and stuff, I enlisted people to show up and help trim the area within the garden. And then there's various projects throughout the year that I rely on people participating. It's kind of it's written into our rules, and for the people that are habitual participants, we kind of give them a break on their fees. The people that don't pay the full fee. So I really try to encourage people to get involved. And on a side note of volunteering, we help each other out. Like, there's new people starting, always, giving them advice, helping them get started. Same with some of the other gardeners that have been there for a while.
Well, let's talk about new people. The Garden Association prides itself on a unified atmosphere. What can you tell us about what the Garden Association does to ensure newcomers are welcomed and given support?
Really just helping everybody out. Like when new people show up, we in the spring before we start up, I last couple of years I started having a meet and greet, so the people that are interested can come to the garden, fill out an application if they want, but they can come up and ask questions. Some of my fellow people that are on my committee and some other volunteers will be there on hand to explain to people what we're about, what's involved in gardening. A lot of people don't realize all that goes into gardening. Obviously, there are people that think you just throw seeds in the ground and wait and see what comes up, but there's a lot more to that. So,
If only.
well, the running joke was the 90-day gardeners. They read the pack of seeds. It says throw seeds in, and they come back in 90 days and go, "Where's my garden? It's all overgrown. It's all." So in the spring, we try to, at least enlighten people that aren't as familiar. Some people know what they're up against, but we try to like let them know, help them out, guide them as being, more community like, more friendly like. And we actually had a sizable amount of people already sign up for next season, um, which is good. This is what we try to shoot for is every year when we have our general meeting, we try to get people to sign up early. And that kind of gives the committee the heads up of, how to assign plots where everybody's going to be early on. Like I said, myself and four other people are kind of behind the scenes pretty much year round with the goings on. I myself probably carry the biggest load, not but I enjoy it, and I like helping people out, and I think that's what brings people back is people get to know us. I At times people get discouraged because of deer taking down their plot and stuff like that. I try to encourage people to don't give up, hang in there. You know, every season's different. Mother Nature throws us curveballs all the time.
I feel like the pandemic created a million more gardeners and a million more bread makers at home. Have you seen any increase in membership or people seeking information about leasing plots since the pandemic?
During the pandemic, it did create some issues, but we did have a temporary increase of membership because there was a lot of people that were stuck home and needed something to do. But those people faded away after the fact, and only the serious hardcore gardeners are still with us.
While many gardeners grow food for themselves, a number of them grow food that's donated to area food banks. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I don't know how far back this goes, but in my 20 years, it started years ago with kind of a rotational thing between us and the Horticulture Society. Back in the day, we had a member that was uh, always in contact with them, and the prisons used to raise the prison right here on the waterfront in Philly has a garden thing where the prisoners start the seedlings and all, and Horticulture Society would donate to us, and then we in turn would start. And we would return the favor by donating a lot of the crops to them. A member from the Horticulture Society used to come to our general meeting every year, and we would make a large donation. Now, in recent years, there's so many community gardens that popped up, so we don't always get stuff from them, but we still carry on donations. We have a member or two that knows some local food banks, and also throughout the season, one of our gardeners specifically has extra gardens because she grows and takes it to a local food bank constantly. And there's other gardeners that will take our excess to local food banks. So we've always donated, always gave. Um, I have such a large plot, and I always overplant so that I get something. So most of my excess is always given away to neighbors, members. I give some to the community food banks and stuff, and so do a lot of the other gardeners.
If someone's interested in getting a plot or learning more about the Garden Association, how can they get in contact with you?
Through my email or through our webpage. We don't have a phone. It's too hard to handle with everybody being volunteer and everybody having jobs and stuff. So we rely mainly on the webpage and on my email, and then there's an email for the woman that's our coordinator, she basically helps me assign all the plots. She handles all the plot assignments. I handle all the logistics out on the field during the season. I can give you the web address if you want to.
Yeah, that'd be great.
It's benjaminrushgarden.org. People can go to that, and that gives us the mailing address. There's the applications are downloadable off of the site. The webpage explains our basic rules. It tells a little bit about us, a little bit, our history and stuff. It also does list my email address on there and my coordinator's email address, which we can always answer questions if people aren't sure. That's really the only way to contact us. Other than if you're at the park, there's 2 boxes that have our applications with our address. There's one by the bathroom, and then there's one on the bulletin board by our shed.
Well, Ron, I wish you a bountiful harvest for years to come, and I want to say thank you, and I appreciate you talking to us today.
Yeah, you're quite welcome. I enjoyed talking to you.
I want to thank my guests, Kaitlyn Gundersen-Thorpe and Ron Huber, for joining the podcast. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Meta for more information about upcoming episodes. You can support the podcast by buying merch at hemlockstohellbenders.com, or you can click support this show in the podcast description to provide a monthly donation. If you're a Pennsylvania business interested in advertising with the podcast, email us at hemlockstohellbenders@gmail.com. Before I end this episode, I want to thank all the participants, sponsors, businesses, and organizations that supported the 2024 Pennsylvania Outdoor Content Creators Meetup at Pine Grove Furnace State Park. I organized and hosted this event to bring together outdoor content creators from all over the Commonwealth. We had travel writers, podcasters, YouTubers, photographers, videographers, and content creators from all backgrounds. We participated in group activities, creator presentations, discussions, hikes, group meals, and so much more. Thank you to Visit Cumberland Valley, Visit Hershey and Harrisburg, and the Keystone Trails Association for financially supporting the event. We couldn't have done it without your support. So please, follow them on social media and support their efforts. I also want to thank the amazing businesses, organizations, and government agencies that supported our event with donations. Thank you to Purple Lizard Maps, New Trail Brewing, Keystone Trails Association, Monkey Business Flavored Nuts, On Point Adventure Foods, Sister Sunflowers, Kate's Real Food, the Pennsylvania Game Commission, Still Not a Hippie, Wertz Candies, Lightning Bug Gift Company, Burned by Renee, and the Pennsylvania Parks and Forest Foundation. With their support, these entities demonstrated their willingness to support content creators in their communities. I really appreciate your contributions. Please check them out, buy their wares, and support their efforts. Thank you also to the incredible staff at the Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources and the Office of Outdoor Recreation. Thank you also to the amazing volunteers with the Friends of Pine Grove Furnace State Park and the Pennsylvania Parks and Forest Foundation. I truly appreciate these awesome businesses, organizations, and government entities for their support for our meetup. It's meant the world to me. This has been Hemlocks to Hellbenders. I'll see you out there. Hosting, production, and editing by Christian Alexanderson. Music by John Sauer. Graphics by Matt Davis.